Alright, welcome to the first episode of the Software Addiction Show. And this is a show where we talk about our software addiction, as the name says. Anyway, if you want to look at any of the stuff we're talking about here, I'm going to put it up on our GitHub page. It's github.com/softwareaddictionshow. And I guess I'll have to make some kind of show notes or something with all the URLs. Alright, so first on the show, let's see, about 2 weeks ago, Microsoft finally ended support for Internet Explorer 8, 9, and 10. And that means that we can officially drop support for all these weird JavaScript hacks and kludge libraries and stuff, and make our code a lot simpler and lighter. Anyway, I was thinking about this. It's like, well, if I get rid of all that, then why do I even need jQuery? I mean, am I even getting anything out of it anymore? So I went through several projects I've been working on over the years, and I ripped out all the code that I still need to get around the weird stuff in browsers, and I put it all inside one library. And yeah, I know there's a lot of jokes like Vanilla.js, the new hot library you need to make JavaScript programming easier, and it's just a joke because if you try downloading it, it's just empty because it's all built in. And then I like that at the bottom it's all, look at these. Oh, I guess it's not here anymore. They're like, look at these big websites and companies that are using our technology. It's like, because it's just JavaScript. Anyway, so I ripped all those couple of things out that I actually still need that jQuery does, and I put them in a library called No More jQuery. And let's have a look and see what's actually in there. Oh, that's right, we're offline. Shit. Yeah, for some stupid reason, I can't record. I can't seem to get a place to record that has Wi-Fi. So getting those two things together is like waiting for the planets to align, so I have to be offline now. And I'm using this weird plugin, what is it, for Firefox, Scrapbook Plus, to kind of save all my web pages in app cache, so I can look at them right now while I'm recording. But anyway, I have the code here, and let's go through it and see like what I actually have left that jQuery does for me that I want, but without having the bloat of jQuery. Let's see. And the first thing to note is that this code is just ripped right out of a bunch of projects, so it's styled very differently. I need to go through and clean it up and make it more of a uniform library thing, so it's not like this mishmash of styles. Let's see, we have a function. It just wraps query selector and returns one object. And then we have the sister function. It wraps query selector all and returns all the elements that are the node list or whatever it is that matches that selector. And these aren't quite giving us parity with jQuery's the cache object or the jQuery object or whatever you want to call it, but it's close enough. And then the other big thing I ran into was, usually when you want to hide and show something and you're using jQuery, you just call the hide or the show function. But what it's actually doing underneath is it's doing the element CSS display style. It's changing it to none when you hide it, and then it's saving that value. So if you had inline or block or whatever, and then when you show, it returns that value into that the CSS value into display. Well, the problem is if you do this in pure JavaScript, you do element.style.display equals none. But then when you go to change it back, you would either have to save the value yourself, or you would have to do element.style.display equals an empty string, which would reset it to your whatever your style sheets are doing, and you would still lose the value. So I'm getting around that whole mess by just using a class name instead of a style. So here we have a class called if you look up here, when the program or when this library loads, it creates a style sheet dynamically, and then it would be basically as if you had a style sheet class called hidden, or CSS class called hidden, with display none. And that way we don't have to worry about the style value. We can just remove and add the hidden class. And that's basically our hide and our show functions. Let's see then, what else is there? One of the things that's been kind of notorious is the whole document ready function. Even though that's been a staple of jQuery, that's not really, it's not an actual thing in JavaScript. It's kind of relying on a bunch of different things under the hood. And the closest thing to it that we can actually use now consistently across different browsers, Internet Explorer, Firefox, Chrome, is the document content loaded, or the DOM content loaded event. So basically, when we call this, if the document's already loaded, then we just call the callback, and if it isn't loaded yet, we set the callback to be called when the document is loaded. So that kind of gets us around those problems, and I've tested it. It seems to work on everything consistently. So you don't have those weird problems where, why didn't the document ready event not fire, or the document onload event not fire this time? It didn't fire. So this seems to solve those. And then what else do we have here? A bunch of Ajax wrappers. And instead of giving them some weird kind of implementation detail name like XML HTTP request gibberish, it's like, we don't need to know any of that, how it's doing it, just tell us what it's doing. So I'm just calling it HTTP get and HTTP post, and then those just sit on top of a those just wrap a HTTP. Man, I can't talk. I never get to talk. An HTTP request function, and that just does what you would think it does. It makes an Ajax request, and then it checks ready state and sends the response and the status and blah blah blah. Everything you expect from Ajax, just making it a little bit easier. Let's see what else. And this function's a little sloppy. I kind of ripped it out of something that I haven't been testing much. Basically, there's these new. Well, they're not actually new. They've been around since the whole CSS3 what a showcase or release or brouhaha or whatever you want to call it, but they actually work now in most of the big browsers. So there are keyframe animations in CSS3 where you can say like from whatever to whatever, and it will manipulate those CSS fields without having to run any JavaScript. It'll run through the range of like whatever, like if you say make the opacity 0 and then over 30 milliseconds make it 1, it'll transition through that range smoothly without having to run any JavaScript or anything, which means much better performance, especially on your shitty mobile phones that run JavaScript like it's a swamp, like it's like you're trying to run through a swamp because it's so slow. It could do that on the GPU. Anyway, even though jQuery, I don't think it even does that. It just has a generic animation function. So I've had to make these two animation functions to kind of compensate. But anyway, if you wanna, I realize I'm not doing a very good job of explaining this, but whatever. If you want to animate a field like, say, for instance, a scroll bar, that's not accessible by CSS. You can't say scroll left equals whatever in CSS. You have to do that with JavaScript. So here what we're doing is we are using request animation frame to do that same thing, where we say, for instance, set the scroll bar location to the left side of the screen, and then over 5 seconds scroll it over to the right side of the screen, and this would handle that, and it would do it when the actual screen painting events happen. So and what else? I think that's actually it. There might be a few more functions, but this is most of them. I mean, it was actually really surprising how many silly little functions I was using that weren't really doing anything. Like, for instance, or they weren't giving me any real benefit. They were just wrapping a JavaScript function that looked almost the same, was almost the same amount of code, wasn't any cleaner. For instance, I was always conditioned to not want to add to a elements class name because it's just a big string full of classes, and if you want to remove or add to that, it's like, well, what if there's already one in there? What if you want to remove it? You have to parse the string and do all this stupid stuff. But for a couple of years now, they've actually had I think it's a class list you can just use, and you say class list remove, class list add, class list contains or has or whatever, and it does all this kind of stuff for us. We don't need to worry about all these jQuery helper functions. It's kind of to a point where we don't really need it. I mean, so far I've gone through like 5 big projects, and this is it. This is like, what, a handful of functions, like, what, 130 lines of code. Anyway, so I encourage anyone watching this to try the same thing. Go through your own software, pull out the jQuery, and see what you're really getting out of it, because I bet if you go in there and you replace it all, you'll be shocked at how little of jQuery you actually need, and you can save yourself all that startup time. You'll be surprised at how much faster, or how much more efficient your DOM manipulation is, because you don't have all that stupid wrapper function stuff. And anything you can do to help the garbage collector have less stuff to worry about is so much better. It just makes your app so much more God, I'm babbling. It's so much more snappy feeling. Anyway, go to our GitHub page. It's github.com/softwareaddictionshow/no-more-jQuery, and check it out. If you find some bugs, report it. I mean, because I barely tested this. I'll have to test it some more, and maybe I'll add some more code, and I'll do an update to this segment. Anyway, on to the next item. Okay, this is really interesting. a few years ago, I think it was 2011, they were talking about adding Unicode support to domain names, so then people who don't use English can just use their native language to make a domain name, and it could be in anything you want, kanji, Hebrew, whatever. But the big problem with that is in the what's the English characters called, the Latin character set. In the Latin character set we use, dang it, okay, there we go, there are a lot of characters that look, let me see if I can look up some here. Yeah, like in the extended set, you have all of those weird characters that Americans look at and like, what's that? It looks like an A with a weird squiggle on it, or a little hat or whatever. And then you have some that look almost exactly like an A, like what's this A here? It has a little tail, and what's this? It looks just like a C, and so forth. So what happens if I get the letter that looks almost like an E, and I make my domain Google, but instead of using a regular Latin E, I use the E with a tiny little dot on the bottom? People will see that and they won't be able to distinguish between that and Google's domain name. So anyways, years passed and some of this has been implemented. You can't just use I don't think you can use things like Arabic or the kanji or anything like that. You can just use some of the Latin extended stuff. I don't think you can use all Unicode, just basic stuff. But anyway, I was looking around today and I found that this is actually, let me see, it's an actual like thing people have been thinking about. It's called the thing of internationalized domain named homograph attack. So basically here's the Wikipedia page. I'll link to it. Basically someone's gone through here and they've looked at situations where people can do that. They've looked at the characters in the other languages that match up to the English characters. And the thing is, I didn't know this, but there are other characters that look exactly like the English characters, but they're not. I mean, like right here, there are Cyrillic characters and Greek characters that look exactly like the Latin characters, but they're not. So anyways, I was trying this out and I've noticed that Firefox kind of has this thing called Punycode, or I'm not sure if that's pronounced right. It might be Punycode or Puny. I hope it. I'm just going to say Punycode. It's a way of encoding Unicode URLs so they can basically fit inside of ASCII. So let me see if there's an example on here. No, well, there are, but they're not good examples. Anyway, well, I looked through and I realized that I had some credit left over to register some domains, so I'm like, well, let's actually go through here and try and make some fake domain names and see how they match up in different browsers and stuff, and if they can actually detect that or give us some kind of warning, because this is something that needs to be fixed. We need to have this kind of protection in there, because if somebody sends an email from, you know, Gmail or whatever to someone's account, but it's not Gmail, it's just something that looks like Gmail, then that's a huge problem. I mean, just imagine if it was your bank or whatever. But anyway, let's see. Anyway, on our GitHub page at github.com/softwareaddictionshow, I have a repository. It's IDN /homograph /attack. I'll put the link in the show notes, where I've gone through and I registered google.com, except it's not a G, it's it's a G with a little tiny squiggle. And then I registered bing.com, except it's Bing with a little squiggle on top, and I registered ask.com, and it's not a K. That right there, it looks like a K, but it's slightly different from I mean, it's not even, it just looks like a font style difference, not an actual letter difference. So if you click these, and I can't do it right now because I'm not online, if you click the fake Google, it'll go to Google's Wikipedia page. If you go to Bing, I think it goes to some funny YouTube video where Steve Ballmer's being in there jumping up and down doing something, because I think he started the Bing initiative. But anyway, and then ask, I think it goes to Wikipedia. But see, if I mouse over ask, if you look down here in the bottom left, it just says ask.com. I want to accidentally click in Firefox it does this, but in Chrome, if I do ask.com, it will escape it using the Punycode or Punycode or whatever it's called. And it'll do this too if you're mousing over a URL that had the ask.com or any other ones. Firefox does this for a couple, but not for any of these, which is really weird. And I've tested a couple more programs. Visual Studio does the same thing, where if I have this fake google.com in the source code and I mouse over it, it'll be like, do you want to open this in a web browser? And I bet so many other pieces of software do this too. This is like a ridiculous thing. I mean, this was brought up years ago. Does this have, let me see here. History. Okay, whatever. I'm pretty sure it was around 2011 when they were talking about this. Let me see, when was this? Oh, I'm not online. I was going to look to see when the page was created, but anyway, this kind of stuff needs to be fixed. I mean, people need to like be educated about this too, because if they get an email, oh, here's the weird, the stupid thing. I looked through. Oh, hold on. I look through and I'm like, oh, this K looks really the same as a K almost. Like the other ones, the B doesn't look quite as much, and the G doesn't look quite as much like an actual G, but the K looks exactly like a K. So I'm like, okay, what's a website that's a big website that has a K in it that I can make a fake URL to? I'm like, okay, ask.com. But now after I did this, I'm like, bank has a K in it, and not just bank, but all banks, Bank of America, whatever. So I looked, and I could have registered bankofamerica.com with this weird the fake K. Let me see, what character set is this? It's the Latin small letter, sorry, the Latin small letter craw. But anyway, and then what happens when I send out emails, like spam emails to people? Is everybody's email client gonna know that, to recognize that that's not the actual K, and be like, is it gonna have some logic in there and be like, oh, this website's to a major bank, and it's a phishing website probably. Will Evolution do that? Will Thunderbird do that? Will Gmail do that? I mean, do these all have to be updated separately? I mean, this could be a major problem. So anyway, I'm gonna try testing those things more. And right now, Chrome. Let me see. Chrome seems to escape them pretty well. Firefox does a few, which is surprising since Mozilla is generally better about privacy and security than, say, well, Microsoft or Google. But yeah, see, even Internet Explorer, the worst browser, generally the worst browser, is smart enough to escape it. I mean, it's escaped it there, and when if I mouse over stuff, it'll do it too, but I can't do it right now because I'm offline. So anyway, I know this is just a cool thing for people to think about, and I know some of the people I've been talking about this, but I haven't heard anything about it in a couple of years. So go here to this GitHub page, test out some more software. I have a list here. Make a pull request with some more software that doesn't do it. Maybe we can try and contact some of the upstream people and see if they could do something about this, or maybe we could just make some kind of a library or something. I'll have to look into it more. I couldn't find anything to, like, you would think there would be some kind of Punycode library, but I couldn't find anything like a standard library to do this that's kind of developed enough to use in software. I just found the RFC and some like people talking about it, and like nothing that you could really put inside of a C program, like a browser. But anyway, well, that's it. That's all I want to talk about on the show today. Since this is our first episode, and usually the first couple of episodes of every show are terrible, and I'm super bad at stuff. So before we wrap up, I want to kind of create a habit of showing some cool software that I've been using. Even though some of this might seem kind of obvious, it might not be obvious to some people. Maybe they haven't heard of it, but here's one of them. The website virustotal.com. I've used lots of virus scanners over the years, and I'm an ISV. I have to write software that works on everything. That means Linux, Windows, OS X, BIOS, Haiku, Solaris, BSD, I think I already said that, Android, iPhone, and all that. So it's like really handy to have a website where I can just upload a file. And I think that the max size is 128 megabytes. So if I'm on Linux and I don't have access to a virus scanner that's on the machine there, I can just go to this website, scan for viruses. Then I can be like, oh, this website will check what it does. Okay, I should say what it does. What it does is it gets your file, creates a hash fingerprint for it, takes a few seconds, uploads that, checks it against probably 50 different virus scanners on the server side. So you don't have to sit there and scan it on 50 million things, which is just impractical for any one person or even a small company. So this does that. It's great. I've been using it for a long time. I've found lots of weird SourceForge spyware bullshit in software doing this. So go check that out. And the next thing, or I should say the last thing, is another website I've been going to for probably 10 years. It's called ocremix.org, or Overclocked Remix. You probably already heard of this, but it's a great website. What they do is they remix and compose original and existing video game music. Most of it is anyway. So they'll take all the music out of a game and they'll compose their own. I don't know anything about making music, but it's great. There's lots of albums. They recently just started a Patreon thing where you can give them funding. Let's see, is there a link here? No. Well, anyway, go here, check it out. Let's see, the album I've been listening to a lot today was their Mega Man 20th Anniversary for Everlasting Peace album. Super long name. Go check it out. Buy it on Amazon, or is that Amazon? Whatever. I'm offline, so I can't check that out. Go check it out. It's also on SoundCloud and on whatever. Go support them if you wanna help make more good video game music. And I think that's it. That's the first episode. So hopefully I can do this whole thing without having to do any editing, but who knows. I will upload this somewhere, and you guys give me some feedback, or some comments, or if you have any questions about any of the stuff we talked about. I'll put it up on Twitter, and then you guys can comment. Alright, see you later, guys.